Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 24 of the Galactic Window Space Podcast. My name is Nick, and I'm every so often known as the Orbital Alliance here on the internet.
And I'm Tan, known as Chasing the Milk.
It's good to see everybody here showing up in the live chat. We've got a great crowd showing up on this awesome Monday night. Yeah. Say hello in the chat if you are here viewing with us, wherever you are on planet Earth. Tonight, we are going to be interviewing a guest and having a great conversation about astrophotography and space and everything in between those two things. Pretty typical, right, Tan?
Yeah, I am pumped, man. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm feeling the juices flowing. I know you were talking about hulking up, right? Earlier.
Yeah, before the stream, I was saying I jokingly did that just to get myself pumped up, but I feel pretty good.
Yeah, and what I wanted to say was I think, there's some psychological benefit to those like physical expressions. And the reason I say that, and I'm going to bring space into this, let's get right into the mess.
All right, yeah, let's go.
When astronauts train, I've heard stories from astronauts and read in their books and heard them, talk about it, where they go through mental training to prepare themselves while they're doing physical training. So maybe they're out in cold weather training in the middle of the forest. There's, 2 feet of snow and they're camping in the middle of the night and they'll be all shivering because it's, 2 degrees Fahrenheit. But then they'll just start talking to each other going, man, this is so warm out here. I'm just sweating. I am so hot right now. I can't believe how beautiful of a day it is out there. And it's not being sarcastic. It's like they're actually trying to like get into each other's heads psychologically. And then the physical benefits take over to get used to, hey, we can endure this hardship if we just change our mindset, So I love that because like when you get hulked up for the podcast, right? If you like physically get crazy, like that's gonna have benefits, right? Like we're gonna feel it, and we're gonna come alive.
Woo-woo. Yeah, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's scientific woo-woo, I think.
I like it. I like it a lot. So yeah, guys, everyone, if you're listening, if you're watching this, just and grab some snacks while you're doing it because tonight is it's gonna be a special night. I am extremely excited to show you guys our guest, and we hope you guys enjoy the show. So yeah, grab some drinks, grab some snacks, hulk up a little bit, and we'll get the show on the road.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to ask Tan, one thing I thought would be fun to talk about right up top is I want to put a question out for those of us in the chat. Everybody who's here hanging out with us, I have a question for you guys. So I need your participation. I want you guys to give me your answers. So here's the question. When you walk outside and it's clear out, so maybe at home, you come out of work, wherever you are, if you walk outside, you look up, it's clear. What is the first thing you look for in the night sky? I'm going to throw up
that's good. Yeah.
I'm going to throw up a question here. I'll throw it on the screen. What is the first thing you look for in the night sky?
Yeah, right. And if you guys answer in the chat, we can actually showcase your answer as well. We can feature you.
First thing. I forgot the word thing. All right. What is the first thing you look for in the night sky? Yeah, because I realized, I was like, I think that might be different for everybody. Because everybody's varying have varying degrees of knowledge about the night sky, and I thought this might tell us a lot about who's viewing. Because everybody's gonna be looking for something different. Like here we go, blue-eyed. Welcome back, the moon.
Good choice,
Ashley, the Big Dipper. Excellent choice. I don't think you need to be embarrassed. You can get rid of that little sweat drop right up there. What's up, Tiffy? The moon or the brightest object? Punky.
Yeah. Same.
Anything shiny. Oh, here we go. The bat signal.
Nice. Where are my UFO hunters at?
Yeah. Anyone out there? Oh my gosh.
What about you? What do you look for?
Yeah, I think the planets. I'm looking for planets first. Or the space station. But usually I'm pretty aware of where the space station is, so there's a lot of nights where I'll know, oh yeah, it's not going to be visible here tonight, so I'm just not going to bother. But usually I'm like, I try to get my bearings with the planets, so that's sort of my go-to. How about you?
Same. Because like as soon as you see one, you're like, okay, I know where I'm at.
Yeah,
So if the moon's moon or planets.
totally. Feel free
Nice.
to continue to sound off in the chat, you guys. What is the first thing you look for in the night sky on a clear night? Let us
Verity is in
know.
here. Let's go. Gotta give a big shout out to Verity here.
What's
Awesome.
happening? Thanks
Yeah.
for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We got a nice crowd in here. Again, if you guys are just tuning in here, we have a special guest tonight, and really looking forward to kind of just diving into his story. So if you guys haven't done so, grab a drink, grab some snacks, and get comfy, because I just want you guys to be super, super, super comfortable for tonight.
And I also recognize that we probably have a lot of new viewers here in the house tonight. So if you guys have never been on the show, you've never seen an episode of the Galactic Window, here's what it's all about. What Tan and I like to do is we like to bring guests on the show as often as possible. It doesn't always happen, but we like to bring in people who love space, and we love to talk with them about space and astronomy, maybe astrophotography, maybe some other distant connection to space. It could be anything, but we love to just share people's stories. And that's what the concept of the Galactic Window is. We have this, every single person on planet Earth has their own unique window into the universe or the galaxy. And that we get to use our podcast as an opportunity to share that unique view. And that sort of ties in with my question that I asked here, because every one of you are probably going to have a different answer. What's the first thing you see when you look up in the night sky? And that proves the point that the galactic window theory exists. We're all looking at the same thing. You walk out and it's the same night sky, but we all look for different things. We interpret it differently. It affects us differently. And that's the point of the show, is space means something different to everybody. And we just want to make sure we capture as many of those and share them as often as possible. So that's kind of it. So we're glad you're here. And we do stream every Monday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. So new episodes every single week. We'd love to have you back.
Well said. Real quick, I can't help but notice this little woo-woo action happening. There's people that know each other in the chat. Like, what is it, the string theory? Oh, man, that's so crazy. Okay. Dude, I'm pumped up. I'm excited, man. Should we just jump right in?
I think we should. All right, here we go. Let's bring on our guest.
Tonight, I'm thrilled to introduce Peter Zelinka, a talented content creator that's been helping people capture the beauty of the night skies for over 7 years. With around 92,000 subscribers, Peter is known for his incredibly detailed and easy to follow tutorials on how to photograph the Milky Way and deep space. His content makes it simple for anyone to get started in night photography. Beyond YouTube, he also leads photography workshops and offers online courses, helping even more people learn to capture stunning celestial images. It's been a privilege to get to know him over the past few years, and I'm very grateful to call him a good friend. Let's give a warm welcome to Peter as we explore his journey and insights.
Welcome, Peter Zelinka, to the Galactic Window. Good to have you here, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. It looks like you've got one heck of a window behind you.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, the view's actually not too dissimilar from that. I mean, a little different, but yeah.
Looking cozy. Wild. Looking cozy and toasty. I like it, man.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Tan. Go for it.
No, you go. I'm still getting pumped up.
Yeah, right. You're getting jacked. I can see the green veins like Bruce Banner starting to pop through. Yeah, well, Peter, we're looking forward to getting to know you better here tonight and being able to share your unique view through the galactic window that you have. Tan actually sort of is the connection point here between you and I. I have not had previous experience getting to know you. Tan, can you actually fill us in on how you know Peter and how you got connected with them in the first place?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but it was back in 2021, and this was, I was doing Milky Way landscape photography about 2 years now, so still learning a lot. But one of the people that I watched on YouTube to learn how to even like use a tracker or learn how to take Milky Way photos was Peter. So we didn't know each other at the time, but I knew him very well, and I was with some friends on a spontaneous trip to Utah to photograph the Milky Way. And I just remember walking with some friends, and Peter, I don't remember where we were. I think it was
It was at the parking lot for the windows.
yes, yes. And I'm walking, and I see this familiar face, and as I'm walking closer, I'm thinking like, dude, this guy looks really familiar, but I couldn't figure it out. And as I get, I'd say within like 10 feet, there's this light bulb that clicked, and I'm thinking, dude, that's the guy. That's the guy who pretty much taught me almost everything I know. And I was telling my friends, and they didn't know who you were, but I don't know if you remember, but I just walked up to you and I was like, Peter, and you just looked at me and gave me this little smirk. But that's how I met Peter. It was an accidental encounter, and just really crazy. But for me, it was a really special moment because I was kind of on this journey of figuring out like what I was really wanting to do with astrophotography. And honestly, just meeting you and running to and just saying hi uh, gave me just a huge boost. Whether it sounds silly or not, I was just like, dude, this means I'm on some kind of path to keep on doing what I love doing. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, I was teaching a workshop and talking to some of the students, and this guy's like yelling, "Oh my God, it's Peter Zelinka!" I'm like, "Oh no!" And
I
then
know,
he
just
runs over, and we ended up staying in touch. He ended up coming out to see us in Kanab, and I was just talking before we started. He's been to. I move around a lot, and I think he's the only one that's actually seen all the places I've been so far. So that's kind of cool.
yeah.
You were hardcore fangirling, weren't you, Tan?
I was trying not to. I'm like, dude, don't blow it, man. Like, don't be weird. But I'm glad I did. But what's really interesting, Peter, is Nick and I, we share kind of a similar story in the sense of we didn't really know each other at one point, and then now we know each other pretty well, and it was because of just the internet. We were friends on TikTok, and one day we decided to meet up and shoot the annular eclipse back in October. And fast forward, we met up, hung out, and now we're doing a podcast together. So both of you guys are kind of like my internet friends that turned into something special. So very grateful to have both of you guys here in the same room or same stream.
There we go. There's the
Yeah, dude.
internet love, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we dive in, guys? Thank you, everyone. I see we have a nice crowd here tonight. We're gonna do our best to read the chat, but we also just want to try to keep the conversation as fluid as possible. So we see you, I promise. But let's dive in.
Let's do it. Take it away, Tan.
All right, Peter. Let's start with what were you doing before deep space photography, and then kind of bridge the gap into like what you do now.
All right. Yeah, I went to school for IT, so that's what I was doing back in 2015. I was working an IT job in a windowless gray room for 9+ hours a day. And I think on the first day, I realized I hated the job and I wanted to quit. So that's when this plan started to quit, save up enough money, and then travel and do photography. And so every day I would just learn more about photography while I was working there because there was really nothing to do. And then by June of 2016, I had enough money saved up. So I put some camping gear and my camera gear in my car and I drove to Colorado. And then I just spent 4 months living out of my car on the road. And I think that's really where it started because I would spend so much time under dark skies. And you have really amazing views out west that you don't get back on the East Coast or even the Midwest to some extent. And by 2017, I was getting really more into astro. I got a star tracker. And that's, I think, where everybody probably knows me from because I bought a Sky Tracker Pro, which some people might know about. And the manual was horrible for that thing. It didn't even tell you how it worked. And there was no videos back then on YouTube. There was like one old guy at his kitchen table. And he was talking about the Sky Guider Pro, which I didn't even have. But I still learned enough from that and just playing around. I said, somebody should make a video on how to use this damn thing because this is so confusing. So I just went in my dining room back in Ohio and I would just hold the stuff out in front of me, in front of the lens and try to show people how to do things. And one thing led to another, and I became an instructor and started making courses and teaching workshops. So
That's so
Ve-
cool. Yeah, that takes an incredible amount of courage to do that. Like you sort of take the reins for people and start showing people the ropes. That's a valuable resource. But then you know start having this mantle of responsibility on your shoulders. Is well, I actually need to know my stuff. I got to figure this out. But that's like that's super cool to watch that happen for you, man. Did you feel scared in that journey at all? Did that feel like unnerving at how much responsibility you were taking on, or did it feel like, nah, I got this?
I don't know. It was always just more of like, I'm just going to throw this out there and hopefully it helps somebody out. That was kind of the mindset I've always had, more so than anything else, I guess. And then once I started making the courses, I'm like, I really got to know my stuff for that. But in fact, I think I started teaching. I used to work at a camera shop to make money when I was coming back to Ohio, because I'd spend about 6 months on the road, 6 months back in during the winter. And when I was working at the camera shop, I learned a ton about photography and I guess some teaching skills while I was there as well. So
Very cool, man. Uh, Dude, I appreciate you sharing that. Real quick, I thought you would appreciate this because I know you're really into like the crypto stuff. So let me just plug this in here right below
oh,
you.
perfect.
Um, for you listeners, we're really interested on Bitcoin tonight. So we have the ticker that's live right here. Do you have a selling point?
100,000, maybe a little under
100,000.
that.
All
I
right,
mean, it's
chat.
probably going to keep going up over the next couple of years, but I'd rather take some money out of it. So
All right, so we'll leave it down here. And hopefully, it's not too distracting. But 87,000. All right.
I don't know the first thing about Bitcoin. I know it exists. I know it's basically stocks. I don't, what's the inform me. What's the draw other than like making a ton of money? But like, is it different than stocks in any way? Like, what's the wrap on that?
uh, if you ask Verity in the chat, she might be able to tell you. Uh, I saw it was going crazy back in like 2020 or maybe even sooner. So I just put some money in and then made a lot of money. And then I'm like, okay, let's try that again and we'll see how it goes. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, and by the way, I have to say that I am not a financial advisor, of course, but yeah, it's just it's digital money, and I just enjoy kind of the how volatile it is. Like it can go up like crazy, and it could do the exact opposite in an instant. And I try to position myself, and I think everyone who invests in crypto will try to do the same. But you just try to position yourself where whenever it goes up or it goes down, you can kind of be prepared for that. So it's extremely fun whenever things are green, and whenever it's red, it's people are usually in a bad mood. But right
Mm-hmm.
now, I will say, just in the past few days, I've been staring at my phone a lot more than usual. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah,
we're gonna hope for the 100K mark tonight. We're gonna make it happen. Everyone in the
yeah,
chat, let's put some dollar signs in the chat. Let's watch it go up.
dude, that would be so crazy.
I think they had a radio show once where they wanted it to rain somewhere and then it ended up like catastrophically flooding. And then they
Oh
stopped
no!
doing that.
All right, chat, do your thing.
Let's go, magic
100,
fingers.
yeah,
Let's
throw
go.
some, put 100K in the chat. I mean, we'll take 90K. All right, so let's kind of dive back into the story here. You started out doing IT, miserable, and you shifted gears to creating tutorials and stuff like that. Um, I remember you in one of your older videos, you were kind of talking about living in a car or something along the lines of that. Can you kind of explain what life was like that during that time?
Yeah, well, in 2016, I had a 2004 Chevy Malibu, so it was not exactly glamorous and it was not comfortable. Thankfully, I had a tent, but there was plenty of nights where it was raining or something. I didn't want to sleep in the tent, so I tried to sleep in the front seat, and that was miserable. That's probably why I have so many gray hairs now. But uh, once I got a CRV in 2017, that changed everything because I ripped one of the seats out and I had a bed in there. And nobody thinks a CRV is there to boondock. So you kind of are incognito, and you could just kind of sleep on city streets and nobody bothers you for the most part. So that was way nicer. And I really fell in love with that kind of lifestyle because if you get tired of a place, you can just drive to the next one. Um, Never really had any problems with it either. I mean, it kind of sucks when you've gone a week without a shower, but if you stay in one place long enough, you can get like a week long gym membership or something, go there in the morning. But yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that. I did that for 4 years. And then oddly enough, I was teaching a lesson with a guy. He offered to let me stay at his hotel in Kanab. And he's like, just come out for a week, show me how to do Astro. Like, I already kind of know what I'm doing. I think you'll love Kanab. And I said, okay. This was like November of 2019. So I flew out there. I did fall in love with Kanab. I'm like, okay, this could work. I could teach some workshops out here. And then on January 3rd, I think 2020, I packed up the CRV and drove across the country from Ohio to Kanab. And I said, well, when I get there, I'll find a house and go from there. And if anybody's ever tried to live in Kanab, they can tell you that's not a smart idea because the housing situation there, there's just nobody living there, or there's no free houses, in other words. So in hindsight, I should not have done that. But when I showed up, they had 2 places available for rent. Both of them were kind of dumpy, but I took one of them and it was okay, I guess. And as you know, by February and March of 2020, everything kind of shut down. And then I'm like, well, now what do I do? But oddly enough, that was like my best year for the business because everybody got an Astro that year and they wanted to buy the courses. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. So just to be clear, you were essentially homeless for 4 years while still making videos and uploading to YouTube?
Yeah, I would just go out in the field and record, and then I'd find a library in the town I was staying at and edit the videos during the day, upload them, and then take some food somewhere and usually go back out into the desert or wherever I was at and spend the night. Yeah.
What were some of the challenges? You said sometimes you would only get to shower for a week, so I'm sure that's one. But yeah, what are some other things that you just, whenever you were in that process of doing that, you figured out like, man, this is tough. I got to figure out a workaround.
If you've ever seen that YouTube channel, Camping with Steve, it's kind of like that. It's this Canadian guy that's just trying to stealth camp everywhere.
He's awesome.
And that's kind of what it was. That's kind of what it was like because you didn't want anybody to know that you were really sleeping in your car. And so you're always like scouting out the area, trying to say, okay, I could probably sleep there and nobody would notice. And then, I mean, food wasn't too hard because I was always staying in these nice areas. So there's always good restaurants, but they were expensive. And then I would usually get some dehydrated meals and some bagels. And I'd take that up into the mountains if I was going to be there for a few days and just kind of hang out. I think the hardest part was just not sleeping that much because doing Astro, and then sometimes a mouse would get in your car and
Oh no.
you spend the whole night trying to deal with that. So it was always something, but still it was a great time of my life and I'm glad I did it.
Did you make any friends with the mice? Did you meet Mickey?
I made friends the other day with a mouse. There's like this house we keep getting mice through somewhere, we don't know where yet, and they get stuck in the wall and they put it like a false vent in there. And I managed to rescue the one mouse that fell in there, and he was so happy. He was running all over my shoulders, and he seemed like he really wanted to thank me.
Dude, that's awesome.
It was odd because he seemed really thankful, like he could feel the energy from him, and then I let him go. And now there's another mouse on the wall, so I'm hoping it's not him. But,
Oh no.
yeah. But back then, they were not my friends because they get into my food and then they wake me up. So we didn't get along back then, but now we're cool.
Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, you like reach into your box of Lucky Charms and you find a mouse in it, you know.
Well, yeah, you could hear them scurrying around at like 2 a.m, and then you'd have to wake up and turn on your headlamp and find them, and then yeah.
Ooh.
That's so cool, man. I that is just man, it's dedication to be able to just kind of put I guess like your regular life or normal life aside and to take this big leap of faith and say, I'm not happy with what I'm doing now. Let me just try just living out of my car and making tutorials, man. It's actually really really awesome and impressive how you did that. I'm curious, were there any points throughout this journey where you kind of like second guess this, or maybe you're just thinking, I don't know if I still want to do this, or if I should keep on doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely gotten burnt out on Astro a lot, even recently. I'm like, if I'm just going to be troubleshooting problems all night, this is not what I signed up for. I might as well be an IT guy again. So from that
Yeah.
point of view, it's definitely annoying because I feel like, I mean, there's always problems you're dealing with, but it seems more and more there's just all these software bugs, and I just spend more of my night not capturing data, trying to troubleshoot. But I'm always in a unique position because my job is to teach people. And so I'm always looking at something as like a learning opportunity, at least
Hmm.
trying to. Uh, I guess that's one thing that's kind of put me apart from a lot of other people, because most astrophotographers are in it for themselves, and that's fine because they're getting amazing photos. Whereas me, it's always like, okay, I have to make a review for this product, or I want to try to show how to do dithering or guiding, whatever it is. So I'm never really getting necessarily as much data as I would like. It's more just for tutorials, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is.
Hmm. Let's for okay, so for someone who's new to deep space, what are there misconceptions about the hobby, like things like that? Is it as complex as it looks, or how would you go about explaining that?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot in the last few years. I mean, there's so many good content creators now, like on YouTube. So when I was getting into this, I think Trevor was probably the only one. There might have been one or two other channels out there, Astro Backyard, I mean. And
Hmm.
now there's tons. So there's never been a better time to get into the hobby because there's so many videos out there on what to do depending on the gear that you have. I think it really does come down to the gear though, because if you don't have the right gear, you're just making your life harder. I mean, you wouldn't build a house with the wrong set of tools, like a spoon. You want a hammer and nails and whatever. So it's kind of the same deal with astrophotography. You need the right gear for the job. And
Hmm.
then a lot of people, it seems, they just go all out and they buy all the most expensive stuff, the big telescopes. They don't know how to use it. They get frustrated and they give up.
Mm.
And so my advice is always just to start simple. Just get a little camera, a little telescope, and a little mount, and that's all you really need. And then once you get the hang of the polar alignment and focusing, then you could eventually start upgrading your gear. But I really think that's the biggest mistake is people just get this crazy gear that's too hard to use and they just give up.
That's a common theme that we hear from a lot of our guests
Yeah, dude.
is people get way in over their heads on equipment. So if you're listening and you're like, I want to uh, start at the bottom of the ladder. It's okay. Like there's no penalty for taking it easy, right? It's just such a common mistake. And I did that too a little bit when I began.
Same.
I got a telescope I think arguably was way over my level, and I was like, I'll figure it out. But I also think there's like some benefit to, you can have that advanced equipment if you know somebody who knows how to use it. If you don't know somebody personally who can show you and mentor you and guide you, then it's like, I think that process moves a lot more slowly for trying to like acclimate to that intermediate or advanced level equipment. But yeah, I think you're totally right. Like, start out slow. It's okay.
Dude, people have warned me about it, and I was just like, okay. And I still like made the mistake of just diving all the way in and just not knowing what I was getting into. And I think one could argue that be if you're going that direction, it can kind of force you to um, just go like head first into some of like the most stressful situations, and you really learn quickly that this is a hobby that's just like you truly have to be patient with yourself. uh, I've lost count of how many times a night in my head where I think I'm gonna go out, shoot this for maybe 3-4 hours, come home and edit this awesome Instagram banger photo. When in fact I drive 2 hours and realize I forgot one little cable that rendered everything useless, or my equipment's not working. But yeah, it is just one of those hobbies that are just I think any way you enter it, you're gonna run into the same things. But I would, like you guys are saying, I would recommend starting small first.
Yep. Faux show. So I'm curious, if you had to pick one project that you've worked on over the years, because you've kind of been all over the place, you've traveled a ton, you have kind of delivered on many platforms, YouTube, Instagram, different tutorial delivery platforms. What would you say is one of the biggest challenges that you're proud of that you've overcome in the content world?
Well, it's kind of a slightly different approach than you might want, but
Mhm.
one of the things I was doing when I was living on the road is I was really into pictographs and petroglyphs, and that was actually one of my main focuses. I would just try to find where they're at and then go hiking, and a lot of these are just in the middle of nowhere in the desert, and there's no trail to get there. You're scrambling down steep cliffs and hoping you don't get stuck because nobody's ever going to find you out there. And I did that over the span of a few years, got some pretty cool photos of these ancient pictographs that could be upwards of 10,000 years old, and they're still intact on these rocks in the desert. And just threw it all together into a little slideshow. And I think it's like my second most popular video now on YouTube. So
cool.
that was kind of cool because it went viral and I didn't even know about it. I just looked one day, I'm like, oh, it has 1 million views. That's nice. Because I thought maybe 100, 200 people would see it, but I really want more people to see it just because it's so interesting looking at what these people were doing thousands of years ago and what they were seeing in this world or another world, who knows. So that was exciting.
What do you think attributed to the success of that video? What was the component or the deciding
I don't
factor? No idea.
Because it's cool.
Something happened and it went viral. I couldn't tell you what. That's one thing that I don't know if people realize, but I don't pay too much attention to the YouTube necessarily. Like I do to help people out, but I'm not sitting there and analyzing everything. I just do what I think people might want to know, and then I move on and try to make another video. So I don't spend too much time thinking about it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very envious of that. I always try to preach people to not worry too much about outside noise, especially when it comes to creating content. But Nick, you and I were talking about this earlier. I was listening to some of my previous podcasts, and I'm just thinking dude, do I sound like that, or why did I say that? And I'll find anything to critique. But when it comes to people other people's opinions, sometimes I'm a lot better at it, but sometimes I let it get it to me. So it's I'm very envious that you can kind of just do your thing and then just leave it at that, not worry too much about it.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part because you're always going to have jerks on the internet, and so the trouble is trying not to dwell on that. So I just kind of ignore it completely, and the good and the bad, whatever it is. I just do my thing, and hopefully people get something out of it.
Nick, do you have any experiences like that?
What, jerks on the internet?
Yes.
Oh, tons of them. Is that what you meant, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's your take on making content and then figuring out how much of the feedback you want to indulge in, I guess?
Yeah, I have one specific instance that I love to talk about. I made a video earlier this year on TikTok that did decently. It got some views. It got sent on TikTok. I'm not sure what it's at now. I feel like last time I looked, it was maybe 30,000 views or something like that, maybe more now. But I did an International Space Station solar transit, and it was like a 4-minute video, and I explained all the details because I just love to give details in my video. I try not to make it too short. I like to add that length for the sake of people who want to know the answer, is like, okay, well, at least the answer was included. But there was some discourse in the comments on that video. Someone said, like, hey, thanks for explaining everything so well. And I replied to them. I just said, yeah, I love to give as much detail as possible, although I'm always, feeling like I'm rambling and making my videos too long. And they're like, no, it was perfect. Loved it. I'm glad you made it longer. But not too much further below, there was someone who said, like, equivalent of, like, just put the fries in the bag, bro. It was like, dude, make your videos shorter. Like, just show me the picture already. Like, it was people complaining about me making my videos too long. And just above it, there was people who were thanking me for making my videos so long. So, like, I feel like there's people in both categories usually expressing their disdain or their support for the way you do things. And I don't know, like, yeah, there's that's just one of my experiences with it. But in terms of, like, you were saying, like, trying to, like, get, like, videos, like, successful, or what was, sorry, remind me of the did I lose the plot?
No, you answered perfectly. I was just kind of curious on what how you handled that and what your take was on it.
Yeah, for sure. I hopefully that answered it. I mean, I try to, if people sound like they're seriously giving feedback, like they're actually critiquing constructively, I'll support that all day and, take that feedback and try to do better. But if people are there just to heckle, I usually don't engage. If people are supporting, I'll try to engage too. But to keep it chill.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, I think it's important. Sometimes, like, you don't know you stink until a friend tells you that, you smell bad. But yeah, I try to just take most feedback with a grain of salt. And okay, hold on, hang on. I gotta pin this real quick. Let's see, we got someone in the chat here. Richard, Peter just wanted to say thanks for all you have done. You and Alan. Rest in peace, Alan and Trevor Jones have put so much into this hobby. I agree, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there's so many great content creators now. That's been one nice thing to see, because when I got started, there was really nobody other than Trevor, and he's still plugging along. So that's good to see. But that's one of the issues we have in the astro community, is just a lot of this gear is not easy. That's something I wanted to touch on. If you get into photography, you buy a Nikon camera, you get a Nikon lens, you can be up and shooting in 2 seconds. You just put the two together. But with astro, I was just teaching a guy the other day in a private lesson, and he couldn't get his telescope focused. And there's there's a lot of info out there, but I just wish these manufacturers would find a way to make it like a Nikon or a Sony, where you just plug and play. I think that's one thing that's holding our hobby back, is just the gear is not necessarily where it needs to be yet. And if it is, then it'll put me out of business, but it'll make everybody's lives a lot easier. So,
Well, let's kind of step into the gear component real quick, because I know there's gonna be a lot of people listening, and they're probably just gonna want, like, what should I get, bro? So this isn't necessarily a plug, but just from your personal experience, and especially with the advancement of technology and gear now, it seems like every month or so we have something new. Just briefly, what would you recommend to someone getting into deep space, and also maybe answer that to like a beginner to even intermediate level as well?
well, I know a lot of people are getting into the small all-in-one mounts, like the Sea Star, I think, from ZWO, and the Dwarf, things like that. I've never used one of those, but people seem to like them. I'm more of an old school guy, though. I like to have an actual telescope and camera. I think you can get a lot more done with that. It's a lot more work. So, a lot of people get into this with a DSLR. That's the way I started, because if you already have the camera, why not use it? You don't have to go out and buy anything new right away. The only issue with DSLRs is just that they're not built for astro. So a lot of the stuff you want to photograph is not going to turn out very well, because the sensors aren't tuned to those frequencies, in a sense. Also, there's no cooling on a DSLR, and heat generates a lot of noise. As Tan knows, we were shooting in the desert, and it was like 90 degrees at night, and our images were so much grainier than they normally were. So these are the kind of things you have to watch out for. But honestly, you could start with as simple as a DSLR and a telephoto lens. That's the way I did it. Got some nice photos. But if you're ready to take the next level, I would say get one of the ZWO cameras. That's honestly, they're really good value for the money at this point for what you're getting, especially if you get, I would say, a color camera. Because if you go monochrome, that's just, you have to buy all the filters and the filter wheel, and processing is way more work. So I was initially all on the mono train, but now I'm like, just give me a color camera. It's good enough. And then I think one of the best things you can do is buy a decent light pollution filter, because a lot of us unfortunately do have to deal with light pollution. And if you can get just like a dual band filter, that's going to block 99% of that light pollution. So you can isolate those nebulae that you might want to photograph, and they're going to look great. But again, if you don't have the right camera, a lot of that light's just going to be wasted on a DSLR sensor. You can get it modified, but still. So, I mean, start off wide for your focal length for the telescope as well, if you can. Like 250, 300 is a really good focal length to start off with. Don't make the mistake of getting the 2000 millimeter Celestrons that everybody does. Those are great a couple years down the road, but they're just a nightmare to work with when you're getting into the hobby for the first couple years, or at least first couple months. So, I mean, I really like the Red Cat telescopes. That's what I've been using since 2019. They work great, especially the newer ones. And then pretty much any ZWO camera would probably do a decent job. So that's kind of the route I would go down.
That was very informative, man. Real quick, I just wanted to give you another shout out, because we got someone in here showing some love.
They're a regular viewer.
Yeah. I used to learn from him. Ian Norman, Alan Walls, rest in peace. Yes, bless Peter. Thank you for your videos. Learned a lot from you. Join the club, man. Join the club. That's awesome.
You get some really wonderful feedback, Peter.
Yeah, dude.
That's good. I isolate myself from the good and the bad. So, yeah.
I know you said you don't like to do the feedback stuff too much, but we're just gonna plug in as much as we can for you.
All right.
Pouring on the love.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, you've been mentioning your connection to some of these other creators, people like Trevor Jones and stuff. Like, do you know many of these people personally, or are they kind of just colleagues and peers on the internet? And have you met them in person? Any stories?
I've never
about
met
that?
anybody other than Tan, and I've never really talked to anybody else.
Nice.
So
Okay. Yeah.
I'm kind of a shut-in, and I just do my own thing. But I'll watch some of their videos occasionally. It's cool to see what other people are up to. But I'm not like out there watching astro videos all day or anything like that. So.
Dude, I just want to share this story real quick for the listeners that are coming in, because I kind of want to just mention how interesting just meeting you was, Peter. But so I met Peter on just a spontaneous trip with my friends. I ran into him while he was doing a separate workshop. It was the first time seeing Peter in real life. I had only known Peter from YouTube. So, naturally I fanboyed and was like, yo, dude, like, what up? And I messaged him. I slid in the DMs, man. I felt like I did. The universe was just telling me, like, dude, you just gotta book a tour, or book a one-on-one or something. And that's kind of how it happened. I messaged you, and I was just like, for one, I don't think he's even gonna see this message, but what the heck? And I was basically like, hey, man, like, can we shoot photos together? And dude, you were really cool about it. You're like, yeah, come out, and we'll do it. And I'm just thinking, like, I don't know if he's just saying that, but I immediately booked a flight, and we met up in the middle of nowhere. And I mean,
did we meet at the Toadstools in the middle of the night? Is that what we did?
Yeah, we literally just complete strangers. Some guy on the internet asked you, like, hey, man, like, I'm a big fan of your work. Can we shoot photos together? And we picked a really cool spot, and you were cool with it. I'm really interested what was going on in your head. I mean, were there any, like, uncertainties, or, like, why'd you agree?
I mean, you seemed chill when I met you. I'm like, all right, whatever. If he's willing to fly all the way out to Kanab, I'll go shoot with him for a few hours. Why not?
Yeah.
But we ended up. When was it? August 2021? Or,
Yeah.
no, was it?
Sometime in 21.
Or was it
It was
2020?
hot. It was hot.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, and then we ended up becoming friends, and you came out multiple times, and we got some pretty cool stuff. You also helped me out with quite a few workshops, so that was nice to have the help there.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that place we used to rent out, the owners moved back in, so that's kind of a done deal at this point. But
Yeah. Yes, admin. We were out in Kanab. Toadstools is Peter. Let me know if I'm wrong. Around 40 minutes from Kanab.
yeah, it's 40 minutes east of Kanab.
Mm-hmm. Yep, southern Utah.
Well, Tan, I think you've made it a habit of meeting people in weird places at weird times. I guess.
That's how I roll, baby.
Yeah, we've told that story about us meeting in the middle of the night with no cell reception in a random McDonald's parking lot in Kayenta, Arizona. And then you've met Peter and Toadstools, which we've also talked about on the show before, because you recommended that to me, and that's where I ended up going with Doug when we were on that trip last year. And I know how terrifying that place is in the middle of the night if you have no idea where you're going. Like, it is no joke. Like, in the daytime, I'm sure it's perfectly manageable, but having never been there, that place is freaky. It's winding, snaking canyons with sand and rocks and all kinds of weird stuff in the pitch black. So I can't imagine trying to find a human being in there.
We just met the trailhead, but yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I guess that's easier.
It's a little, not as scary, but didn't you get lost in there, dude?
Did I?
Yeah.
For a little bit, yes. For a brief second, we were really confident up until about maybe 3/4 of the way through, and I knew I had seen the toadstool in the distance. You know, it was like a silhouette against the night sky, just barely, and we had headlamps, and I knew we had a dead end. I was like, oh gosh, there's nowhere to go from here. So we had to backtrack a little bit, and I kind of lost my bearings for a second, and eventually found a way around and made it. Coming back out, I was even more terrified that we weren't going to be able to retrace our steps. That was a little bit more freaky, but yes, we did get lost for about 5 minutes.
Terrifying. Yeah,
Yes.
getting lost in the desert in the dark.
Speaking of that, I have a funny story. I was in
Yes.
Arches in 2018, maybe, and I was over by the windows again. It was probably midnight or 1 a.m., and I could see somebody off in the distance was taking photos, so I turned off my headlamp so I didn't ruin their shot. And eventually, I was headed where they were shooting anyway, so I walked past him and I'm like, you getting anything good tonight? He's like, you're Peter Zelinka. Like, it's pitch
Weird.
black. He can't see me at all. I'm like, how do you know that? So I recognize your voice. I saw you on YouTube. I'm like, oh, okay.
I
But
do
that
have
was
the voice, man.
that was definitely weird to be recognized in the pitch black in the middle of the desert. And then every time I go to Arches, it seems like somebody recognizes me there, which is odd. That's my go-to spot, I guess. So
That's crazy.
You have a distinct voice. Even just listening to you now, I feel like I'm watching one of your tutorials, but we're just shooting the shit. It's a very distinct voice.
I just want to call it that the Bitcoin. Oh, it's at
Oh,
it's
dude,
right in that
88?
88 border right there.
gotta go higher than that. We gotta get to 90 tonight.
90 tonight. All right, we got this. Real quick, I also want to open up the floor too. If you guys have questions you want to ask Peter, while we're doing this, feel free to just throw it in the chat. Can't promise we'll get to everyone, but this is the perfect opportunity if you would just want to ask him something, anything, and then we might feature ya.
Oh yeah, we like to do that. It's one of our favorite parts about doing this show live. It's why we choose most of the time not to do it recorded if we can help it, is that we love to interact with you guys. We love to build a little bit of a community here on our show, and we've seen so many people who come back week after week, and that means so much to us because it feels like we're making friends on the internet, and it's a really cool thing. So always feel like you guys can participate in the chat. Just have fun, keep it clean, and we'll do our best to engage with you guys as much as possible.
Cool. Just a random question for you, Peter. Have you? Is this your first podcast?
think so. I don't think I've been on any others. So
Yes.
Let's go.
We did it. Yes.
We made the cut, baby. How's it feel, man?
pretty good.
Good. I noticed you, dude, you, since the last time I was watching your videos, you climbed up immensely on the YouTube subscriber count. You are 100K
It's still
is right there.
It's still at 92 though, right? I plateaued once I hit 90. I can't get anybody to subscribe anymore. But that's the one thing I think in one or two videos like 5-6 years ago I said subscribe and like it, but that's one thing I'll never do is the typical YouTuber crap. So I really don't care if you subscribe or not, but it would be cool to hit 100,000 eventually, I guess.
That's I feel like that's the like the big milestone on YouTube, right?
Yeah, you get that silver whatever it is. So
Silver play button. Yeah.
Dude, all right. Listeners, if you come across this video, there's only one thing I need you to do. It's just head over to Peter Zelinka's YouTube and help him get to that 100K. That's going to be an exciting moment.
Yeah. So I was taking a look at your photography, Peter. You've kind of done all sorts of things, not just astro. You've done macro photography with insects and plants and things like that. You've done landscapes. I loved the style that you include in those shots, the color, the way you color grade, the way you edit and post process, in all your photography. What is your approach to that, and how do you get yourself from raw photo to final product?
honestly, I couldn't even do some of those edits that I have on my website anymore. It's that's the thing with photography is that sometimes you just dialed in and it just comes out and it's amazing. And then other times you just can't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was on the road, I was just so immersed in it. It just came to me so naturally. And sure, I might have been editing in a library in some little town somewhere, but I would still just get some really cool edits out of it. Just mainly Photoshop and camera raw, nothing too crazy, but just trying to capture what I saw really and make it look fun to look at. But for the Astro, that's more of like a strict process that you want to follow every time, at least for part of it. That's something I try to show, especially in that Pix and Sight for Dummies course, where it's generally the same steps to start off with. You're just trying to fix the data, frankly, fix the color cast, fix the blurry stars, fix the gradients, whatever you might have. But once you've done all the boring stuff, then you're free to just have fun with the image. And that's really where you can take the image to a whole new level, provided you know how to use the tools. Mm-hmm. And that's always the trick. I'm still trying to learn Pix and Sight on how to do the artistic stuff. That's why I normally just jump over to Photoshop, because that's where I got started. But yeah, I had a lot of fun doing the other types of photography. That's actually what I wanted to do originally, was just become a professional photographer, not an instructor. And then I made a couple $100 a year doing that, selling prints. So I quickly realized that was not going to be feasible. And then once I realized people wanted to learn from me and I was decent at teaching, I said, all right, well, I can make some money doing that. And that's kept me going for the last 6 years or so. So that's been good.
Did you ever have any experience teaching in other formats, like in school? Did you have a teaching certificate, or did you do anything else ever?
No, that's the weird thing, because I'm just a quiet, kind of autistic guy that sits around all day and goes on hikes and stuff. So I'm not exactly a people person or outgoing. So the fact that I'm a decent teacher is surprising to me, I guess.
Well, you clearly found your home, though. People love you. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. What you're saying. Walk me through what it's like going from teaching people through a screen versus doing it in person. Because you had mentioned you have an upcoming workshop, and then you've done some in the past. What's that like, going from screen to camera and no one there versus being physically present with other bodies of energy?
Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty introverted, so it's always a bit of a challenge for me. I think people expect me to be a lot more outgoing than I am. They're always a bit taken aback when I'm just me. So that's one thing. But everybody seems to enjoy the workshops from what I can tell. And the whole thing is you come out there, you get to a nice dark sky. And usually a lot of these people don't really, they just bought the gear, they've had it, and they don't really understand what they're doing with it. And so they come out, and within a few days, they're rock stars, and they're getting better photos than I ever had. So that's always encouraging to see. And I'm teaching a guy right now. He's just getting into it, and he's already got an amazing triangulum photo, better than anything I've ever taken. I'm like, come on. So it's really inspiring to see just how good people are these days. I've stayed in touch with one girl. She's had on an APOD, or she's been on APOD at least three times at least. And that's cool to see. But yeah, I do have a workshop coming up in South America, September 2025. We're going to be doing, obviously, the Southern Hemisphere for that. That's going to be interesting. I'm hoping the polar alignment won't be too hard, but I'm sure we'll get to that. And tons of cool objects that we can't see from up here. So if you're interested in doing some deep space work down in Chile, I'll have some info on my website soon. But stay tuned for that.
Dude, I might take you up on that.
Dude,
I have always wanted
Chile?
to. Tan, you want to go?
Dude, you got 2 tickets, baby.
Yeah.
Will this be your first time in the Southern Hemisphere?
Yeah, I'm going to go down a couple days before it
man.
starts, though, so I can figure out what the hell I'm doing. I mean, it should be pretty straightforward if the ASIR is able to understand the South Celestial Pole, which it should be. And then once the polar alignment's done, it's the same thing as we do up here. So I don't think it'll be too difficult, but there's always new challenges. So,
real quick, someone asked, "What's an APOD?" It's NASA's astro photo of the day. Am I right here, guys?
mm-hmm. Yeah, you can send them an email with some of your photos. I've never heard back from them, but I've had at least 2 or 3 students that have gone on there, and they're trying to just look for cool photos that people take and something unique, not just Orion for the 1,000th time, although they do post that fairly often, I've noticed. So
I dropped a link in the comments. You're good, Dan. I dropped that there, apod.nasa.gov. I don't know if you can click it in the chat, but you can at least just type that in. Pretty memorable. They post a new photo every single day.
Sweet. I'm going to read this here. Peter, how has astro evolved through the years in your eyes? I recall watching you when equipment was niche. How do you feel about the current state of the hobby with smart telescopes, and where do you see it going? Great question.
Yeah. Well, I guess from my point of view, that's all I can give you is my point of view on it. When I was getting into the hobby back in 2016, 2017, you had the old-fashioned go-to mounts with the hand controllers, and then you had star trackers. And the go-to mounts have definitely come a long way in the last couple of years. I know the AM5, that's one I'm using. I really like it. For the most part, it works really well. And the fact that you can control it through your iPad or your phone is amazing to me. That's something that was always off-putting, because when I was looking into those go-to mounts back in the day, they're big, they're heavy, they're a pain to take with you. I couldn't live on the road and have a go-to mount. And then plus you have to do it all through the hand controller, which is like 1970s tech, it felt like. I'm saying, this isn't fun. I'm not going to do this. At least with the Star Tracker, you can set it up in 5 minutes and start shooting. It was limited, but you didn't have to deal with all the extra crap. So it's been good to see the rise of the harmonic mounts. So they're portable, they're small, they're lightweight. You don't need a counterweight anymore. You can take them to dark skies, no problem. But like I was saying earlier, I wish these companies would just innovate more. Like Ioptron, I don't think they've ever made a successor to their Skyguider Pro, and it's got plenty of flaws. So you'd think they would fix them and make a new model. Star Adventure at least seems to be doing minor improvements here and there. They're sorry, Skywatcher, but it's still more or less the same thing. They do have a new harmonic mount, I'll give them that, but I just wish somebody would make an ecosystem like Nikon or Sony, where you buy a camera, you buy a telescope, you click it together, you're done. You put it on your mount and you just hit go to. I mean, I guess that's what the smart telescopes are for that he had mentioned. A lot of people like them. It's just not for me. So I understand why people like it. It's easy. You don't have to deal with all the extra crap. You can just set it up and run it. So I get it, but I just like doing it the old-fashioned way, I guess. I just wish they would make some improvements in that regard.
Yeah. And maybe I can kind of share a little bit of insight on the smart telescope side of things, because I currently have two, and I'm getting another one soon. Also, real quick, I just wanted to give you another shout out, Peter, from George Spaces Out. I was able to use my ASI right out of the box thanks to Peter's videos. Nice, bro. Very nice.
Good to hear.
So, just kind of in short, smart telescopes, they are kind of this really easy deep space photography setup. The idea is you essentially just have this unit, a small telescope with a fixed focal length, and with just a few buttons controlled through your phone, you can be imaging and taking photos of things in space. And that is a game changer in just the last 4 years. Doing it without one of those smart telescope requires just tedious work. Getting camera, hooking up your camera, setting everything up, connecting all the cables, setting up your telescope, and then pointing at the sky, finding something to look for, and then obviously just shooting photos all night. And then after that, you still have the photos that you have to process. So the fact that you can be up and running and take photos of galaxies within just a few minutes is, in my opinion, pretty crazy. But I think where the separation is if you just want something that is just quick and easy, if let's say you just want to show your friends, like, hey, I want to show you this cool photo of a galaxy. Smart telescopes are absolutely incredible for that, because they are so portable. You can throw it in your bag, in your car, and with just a few minutes, you can show your friends and family all these beautiful photos. If you are wanting to really get into the art of deep space imaging, where you learn all the the nuances of just photographing things in space, and also learning how to process it efficiently and effectively, that's a whole other monster. But that's the way to go. So to kind of recap, if you want something easy, I think smart telescopes are great. If you really just want to do it the old-fashioned way and pull your hair out, but also be rewarded with beautiful photos, much better than the smart telescopes can produce, at least for now, then yeah, start with the rig and go from there.
Go for it, Tan, if you had something.
No, it's all you, man.
Yeah, I was thinking back earlier, Peter. You were describing the stories of people whom you've mentored, and watching them sort of like, rise above and grow, like seeing this huge growth gap, and doing amazing things, and kind of getting that sense of pride. I don't know why I thought of Star Wars when you were explaining that. Are you a Star Wars fan, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna reference The Last Jedi, episode 8. For those of you in chat who are Star Wars fans, sound off and let me know what your favorite Star Wars movie is. Let us know. There's a moment there where Yoda is, Force Ghost Yoda, and he's teaching Luke about being a teacher, and he emphasizes the concept that the most important thing a teacher can do is to pass on failure, right? Like this, don't just pass on everything that you've learned, but share with your students how you've messed up. Do you find that that's a component of your teaching method at all, or do you feel like that resonates with you?
Yeah, I have a video of me dropping my camera on camera, and I'm in the video. I'm like, make sure you have a firm hand on it, and then I cut to me dropping it and breaking it. So check that out if you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, and that's part of the whole thing I do, is I just try to be real with people and say, this is all the crap I had to go through last night. In case you have to go through it, here's what I did to fix it, especially lately. So I think failure's one of the best ways to learn. Just hopefully it's not expensive. I've had some students that weren't paying close enough attention during a meridian flip or something along those lines, and they've destroyed their camera. Then they're out of commission for 6 weeks or more and out a couple $100. So that's why in every video I'm always stressing, watch your gear, watch those cables, it's just the worst feeling to know you just broke something because you were careless or forgot. Thankfully, I haven't had any issues yet, but well, apart from the camera dropping and the lens. So
Yeah, for sure. I think we were discussing this a little bit with Andrew McCarthy last week when he was on. You know, we were talking with him about kind of a similar thing. I asked him if there was any times he's messed up a shot. And I think we all have had those moments where it's like we thought we knew what we were doing, or we did everything right, but at the last second we made some crazy adjustment for whatever reason, and we've messed up the shot that we spent either hours or preparing for, or days, or weeks, or months. You know, there's always those things. Do you have any other stories of times that you've messed something up that you thought you had under control?
too many to count, honestly. Just the other night, I was shooting the Pleiades and I was getting star trails, and I said, that can't be. Why would I be getting star trails? And I was kind of lazy. I said, whatever. And then I switched over to the Spaghetti Nebula, and that one I cared more about, and I was still getting star trails. Long story short, it's because the dovetail plate had come loose, the screw that was holding it in. So when I did the alignment, everything was off slightly. And so I had to take it in, tighten it back down, take it out. Just little things like that get annoying. But as long as they're little things, it's okay. So it's nothing major.
Right. Eventually, when you do figure out the problem, you track it down to the source. Though it's a relief to know that you've troubleshooted the problem and now it's out of the way. It's like, okay, now we can get to business, right?
Mm.
Let's see here. Real quick, I just want to kind of going back to the smart telescopes here. George says, I think smart telescopes are a great gateway to the hobby. It plants the seed for more advanced astro.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What's next for you, Peter? Like, what do you? I guess my question would be, what do you foresee happening in the next 2 years?
For me, just in general.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any like projects or something that you want to tackle? Something?
Not really. I just kind of take it as it comes. Like right now, I'm just focused on firewood. Honestly, the new house we're living in is a lot of work. So we're living in eastern Idaho in the winter. We got a couple cords of wood. So every day I'm out there chopping wood and stacking and arranging it. So that's kind of where I'm at mentally. And also, if we get a clear night, it's like, okay, I still have my list of targets I got to get done. Because I guess you could say one of the problems I'm having with Astro is just that I feel like I've plateaued and I've done everything that I wanted to do, like the initial stuff. That's the problem with me, is I feel like because I've been teaching so much, I never really got where I wanted to get. And so I feel like I just graduated from beginner level photos, honestly. I did the Veil, Rosette, Andromeda, your standard stuff. And now I'm trying to challenge myself to do more difficult targets. And the problem with that is I have 40 hours of data on Iris, and I'm like, it's still kind of grainy. Maybe I have to get another 40 hours. So that's kind of where I'm at. And it's like, that's going to take you a couple of months to get that much data. But that brings me back to gear. One thing I wanted to say is people are always wondering if they should get this new telescope or this new camera. But one bit of feedback that I have from doing this as long as I have is it might be better to invest in 2 mounts, 2 cameras, and 2 telescopes. Because if we think about it, like in this Iris situation, I have to get 40 more hours of data. But if I get a second telescope, I already have 3 mounts. So if I get a second identical telescope, then I can get 40 hours in half the time. You know what I mean? I could have 2 mounts photographing the same thing on one night. Right now, I'm actually doing 3 mounts, each photographing their own thing every night. So I'm getting a lot of different targets, but it still takes a while to gather data. And you could always buy an f2 telescope. I had the Raza, and I ended up donating that because I was living in Washington, and I'm like, I'm never going to be able to use this. So the issue with the Raza, though, is once you get to f2, you have to get special filters that are designed for that fast aperture. If the sensor isn't perfectly straight on to the telescope, you're going to get blurry stars. You have to get the tilt perfect. There's just all these little things that are really troublesome to deal with. especially if you have a monochrome camera. Then you have to, at least with a Raza, you can't really use a monochrome camera with a filter wheel. You have to get a filter drawer. So my whole point with this is just to say, rather than spending all that money, just get a decent telescope like one of the Red Cats. That's what I have. It works fine. And then a decent ZWO camera. If you double everything up, you're getting double the data on your clear nights. So it's just an idea to throw out there. If you're thinking about buying new gear, throw that in your equation and see if it makes sense for you.
I say, why stop there? Keep buying telescopes. We got a whole fleet, you know.
Get 3.
Yeah, 3. Make it 5. Why not 12? Then you could get like 700 hours in one night worth of data.
Yeah, honestly, that's the best photos you see on Astrobin now. They're all just remote observatories, people putting their gear out in some desert somewhere, and then they can remote in whenever it's clear and just get data. And that's certainly not a bad idea if you can afford it.
Dude, literally, you may be bring up the same thing. Literally, as you said that, George asked, have you ever considered hosting a rig at a remote observatory?
I've considered it, but again, I'd rather be hands-on with the gear. That's just me. Obviously, I'd get more data and better data if I did the remote observatory. I might still consider that if I end up moving back to a more light polluted area, but right now we're in probably Bortle 2. So I have no
That's awesome.
need to do that other than just cloudy skies. Like it's going to be snowing quite a bit the next week, but full moon, so who cares? So
this is a question I like to ask a lot of people because I think there's varying answers all over the place, and this is a little bit of a skew from the conversation. But I was thinking about remote observatories, and then you mentioned clouds, and I was like, well, how do we get out of the clouds? It's like, well, what if we could have a remote observatory on the moon? Then I was like, well, that'd be cool, but why not just go to the moon? So here's my question: would you ever go to the moon for astrophotography? Would you like to go to space?
yeah, there was a time when I was living out of my car. I said, this is perfect training for being an astronaut. I'm stuck in this little cramped thing for all day, every day. I don't see anybody. I don't talk to anybody. So I could be an astronaut and just go to Mars or whatever. So I definitely do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there might be some mysteries out there that would be worth exploring. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah. I thought a lot about that during COVID when I was locked in at home and, it was weeks at a time. We weren't going anywhere. I was like, this is like, I just have to keep reframing my mindset. I'm like, I'm living on the International Space Station. It's going to be fine. We're just doing research in the house and, we get to make calls down to earth and that's how it is. And it's okay. It's like we were talking at the top of the episode, like the power of the mind, right? Like we're able to kind of overcome things with our physical just by thinking about it the right way. Man, is there a photo or a series of photos perhaps that you've taken that you're like, I will never get over how cool they are or how proud of them you are? Is there something that sticks out to you in your portfolio that you just enjoy so much?
probably some of my wildlife and a few of the landscape photos. There's one time I was driving in Colorado in the fall, trying to find a place to sleep for the night. And I'm driving down a dirt road at dusk, and I look over. There's this big dead tree, and something just caught my eye. And I glance over, and there's a huge owl just sitting on top of it. So I slam on the brakes. Thankfully, it's out in the middle of nowhere. Somebody's coming down the road. And I crawl from the front seat all the way back in the trunk. It's a CRV, so it's a hatchback, but crawl all the way back there, get my telephoto lens on, crawl all the way back to the front seat and start photographing her. And she just kind of looked around and was checking me out, didn't really seem to mind. And that was a really special moment. Also, once with a coyote in Rocky Mountain National Park, I was just standing out in this field and I saw this tail way off in the distance. You could see him like jumping down to catch prey and jumping up above the grass. And I just kind of stood there like a statue for 30 minutes watching him. And eventually he walked right up to me and I got a few shots of him and then he walked away.
Cool.
So that was cool. So it's mainly the wildlife, I think. Yeah.
Do you still shoot wildlife?
Well, I would like to. I mean, we're here in Grand Teton area, so there's tons of moose. We had a moose walk through the backyard the other day, but I wasn't fast enough to get the gear. There's a guy on Instagram, Isaac. he takes world-class wildlife photos. So I'm going to see if I can find him in Jackson, because I know he's over there. Say hi, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll pull a tan.
Do it. Do it. Um, Peter, I wanted to kind of go back to an earlier word that you mentioned, and this is something that frequently gets brought up. Just for myself and Nick and I have talked about this, but it's the astronomy burnout, and I'm really interested in your take on burnout, and how you deal with it, or at least just navigate through times of burnout.
Yeah, I've been burnt out many times doing astro. I think it's just when I reach plateaus and I'm just getting the same data and it doesn't look all that amazing. And then you see somebody else taking amazing photos. You say, why can't I do that? So I think just with time, you get over the burnout more than anything. It really, the best thing though is just to look at other people's photos, because that's what inspires you. I think that's why Trevor's been so successful on his channel, because that's kind of his whole thing, is he inspires you to go out and take your own photos, and he gives you a little bit of advice along the way. So AstroBin is probably one of the best resources out there. There's tons of spectacular photos of all different types of targets. And what I'd recommend is, if you're just feeling kind of burnout, go on AstroBin for a few hours, see what other people are doing. And one thing I'll do is I'll write down targets that look interesting, and then I'll see if I can even photograph them with the gear I have. I only have 600 millimeters at the most for my focal length, which is not much. So a lot of them are out of my reach, but others are not. And so I'll make a note of it. I'll see what filters they use and say, all right, well, I'll add that to the list. And with the winter season upon us, there's tons of great targets to shoot, including the Spaghetti Nebula, which, if anybody's photographing that, I had some weird thing in my photos the other night. So if anybody's been doing that region lately, get in contact with me, because there's this weird flare. I have no idea what it was, but it was there the last 2 nights. It couldn't have been a light, so I don't know what it was. But now that we have snow coming, I can't really go out and try to center up the flare and see what that was. But
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's probably aliens.
If all of our hair starts like floating upwards, we know why.
Kayla says it's a meatball.
A meatball.
Yeah, it could be.
Was it
A
spicy?
luminous meatball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that reminds me, we need to get Georgios Tsoukalos on the show. I know we've said that before. That's just our occasional reminder to get the aliens guy on the show.
We have to. I'll make a note to email him after this episode here.
Yes. Well, Peter, before we kind of wrap up here, I wanted to ask you one more thing. If there's a nugget of inspiration you can leave with our guests tonight, no matter what their experience in Astra is or with space, what might that be?
Oof. Inspiration, you say?
Yeah, inspiration.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I started off knowing nothing about astro. It was very frustrating, and now I'm able to take decent photos. So if I can do it, I know everybody says, well, if I can do it, you can do it. But yeah, if I can do it, for sure, anybody can do it. The trick is just experimenting and having fun with it. Try not to get too flustered by it. And well, that's about all I got.
That's great. I love it.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Well, if you guys want to support Peter, you should go do that. And one of the best ways to do that is to go over to Instagram, and you can follow him at Pete Zelinka on Instagram. And I believe on YouTube you are at Peter Zelinka. Is that right?
Probably. Just search my name. You'll find me wherever I'm at. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Every follow makes a difference. And, the knowledge and fun with Peter doesn't end here tonight. You guys can see his content as he posts it, and you guys can partake in his tutorials and take things to the next level no matter where you are. So get excited. and show your thanks to Peter. Also, sound off in the chat. Everybody let him know how grateful you are that he was here tonight, and let him know just how much you care about what you've learned this evening.
Yeah, we gotta get you to 100K on YouTube, man. So we'll have to revisit conversation whenever you get there, and maybe a little celebratory. I don't know, something.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
We'll throw a party.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Peter, thanks so much. It's great to meet you, man. Great to have you on the Galactic Window, and we appreciate your time. Hope you have the best of luck preparing for 2025, the crazy South America trip, and everything in between. Best of luck to you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
guys.
man.
We'll see you next
Appreciate
time.
it.
All right.
Nice. Dude, Tan, thanks for... I'm going to make a compilation of all your rage, Hulk rages, and post it on our TikTok channel later, because
Okay.
there's been a lot of them.
Do it.
Oh my gosh. Speaking
That
of
was
which,
freaking awesome, man.
oh, it totally was. I was like, holy cow, I didn't realize what a legend we had in our show. So amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're grateful for Peter and him sharing his knowledge and his experience. It's always cool to hear about someone who paved their own way, but isn't just like holding on to it themselves. They're passing it on to the next generation, and they're going to pass it to the next generation. That's like, it's so inspiring to me. I love it.
Yeah, and I hope just with us sharing his story, we can do the same. You know, I think that's kind of I'd say it's one of our goals of this podcast is to just simply share other people's stories, and we just hope that you find, even if it's like 2%, a bit of inspiration. We hope that carries you forward into your endeavors, and yeah, man, I'm having a blast doing this. I am having fun.
Good. Very good. Well,
It's good.
It's so good. Yeah, so looking ahead, everybody who's still hanging out with us in the chat, thank you for being here the whole night.
Seriously.
We just want to show you guys some ways that you can be supporting the podcast, because your support is appreciated in every way. One of them being that you can follow the Galactic Window on TikTok. We're trying to grow that account a little bit. We're posting highlights and clips from past episodes. Fun way to sort of catch some of the favorite moments of the show in bite-sized form. You can also support Tan directly at Chasing the Milk on social media. So be sure to give him a follow. And then you can also support me at the Orbital Alliance on social media. And yeah, next week we've got...
Ooh, tell him.
Okay. Yeah. So next week we've got another incredible guest, and you guys, I'm very, 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 very excited about this. And here is the big reveal. Next week we are bringing on Stacy Morgan, who is the wife of astronaut Drew Morgan. So you guys, this is going to be really great. She's an author, and she is the author of The Astronaut's Wife book. Let me drop out the photo here again. And we're very excited. I've listened to the book on audiobook. It's fantastic. I'm re-listening to it right now, and we're going to be bringing her on the show, and we're going to be asking her about her experience of having a spouse and a family member who's lived aboard the space station for an extended term, which was over half a year, and what that's like to share a home with someone who's training to go to space, and how that's impacted her life and her family's life. So it's going to be an excellent show. We're really looking forward to it. She's a fantastic person and has a really incredible story. So if you guys haven't read her book, be sure to give it a listen or a read before next week. Just a couple notes about that too. Next week's gonna be a little bit different. I'm gonna be traveling, so we're actually pre-recording this episode for next week, so we'll not be live like we are now, but it will be premiered here on YouTube. So let me I think I made a note. Oh, it's for the ticker at the end. Yeah, so just a reminder, there will be a live chat, and Tan and I will do our best to be present in that. So please still show up. It will premiere at 9 p.m. Central Time next week. And Stacy will be there. She won't be able to answer questions because she'll be pre-recorded. The other thing about that is she's living literally in the Marshall Islands right now, so we had to coordinate a recording session with someone who is at an 18-hour time difference than us. So very different type of show, but it's gonna be a blast. Definitely. Oh, you know what we should do? I wonder if there's a way to submit. Waits for
Dude,
people.
you guys should just ask the questions right now.
That's it.
Ask the questions right now. Give us, what would you ask Stacey Morgan, someone, a wife of an astronaut? Just throw it in the chat, and I'll be hanging out with you guys too. So I'll hold down the fort, yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Even though we won't be live, I'll still be there, and really excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
But just ask away. Let us know, what would you ask a wife of an astronaut?
Yes. I bet there's all kinds of questions you can have.
Mm-hmm.
What is your go-to order at Taco Bell? I love it. Absolutely. I'm going to ask that question.
She seems like a Crunchwrap Supreme kind of person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Well, I'm hankering to find out.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so next week, don't miss it. Same time, normal place here on YouTube, 9 p.m. Central in the U.S.
Yep.
Tan, any last words? What do you got?
I just want to say, as always, thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you are unable to watch, for whatever reason on Monday nights, just remember that these are going to be living on YouTube. So you can always play it back while you're driving to work or cooking food or whatever. But yeah, just showing up here and saying hi is one of the best ways you can support us. Liking the video, sharing it with someone who you think might be interested in space talk. But thank you guys so much. I had a blast tonight.
Yeah, it's been great. And if you want to go back and watch past episodes, there's a whole playlist here on YouTube. You can also search for it on YouTube Music if that's your primary source for music and podcasts. They have a podcast tab, and you can certainly find the Galactic Windows Space Podcast there, and all 24 existing episodes are ready for you to enjoy. So definitely go back and do that.
Got
so
some
cool.
awesome questions here too, so we'll take note of that.
Yeah, feel free to continue to drop those questions in the chat. As long as the stream is live, we will see them. So even if we're in the outro video, feel free. It's still safe to submit. We'll see them. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Glad to have you around. And of course, as we always will say, we'll see you all on the other side.
See you guys.